Hi everyone, my name is Connor Nichols and I'm an AmeriCorps member through Conservation Nebraska's Common Ground program. Wanted to thank you for coming to this program focusing on the Meadowlark Project in Gothenburg, Nebraska. It's just going to be outlining some general information about the plant and kind of some information about the process and things like that. Just a few reminders for everyone. Those of you who are online will have their cameras off and microphones muted, so you can't be seen or heard. Any questions you may have can be answered or can be put into the Q&A section towards the bottom of your screen, and we will do the best we can to answer them towards the end of the presentation. Additionally, this webinar is being recorded, so if you miss anything or wish to watch it again, you'll be able to find it in a few weeks posted on Conservation Nebraska's YouTube channel. Lastly, there will be a short poll towards the end of the webinar. If you could please fill out the poll before you leave, we'd greatly appreciate it as it helps us to hold and improve future events. With that being said, allow me to introduce our speakers. We have Nate Wyatt. Nate has been helping secure clients' financial futures since 2001. Graduated from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln with a degree in finance, business administration, and management. He recently earned his Certified Financial Planner at CFP designation after completing financial planning coursework and passed exams in the financial planning process, risk management, investments, tax planning and management, retirement and employee benefits, and estate planning. In 2020, Nate participated in a leadership program sponsored by the Nebraska Department of Economic Development, which was dedicated to developing others through a strengths-based, engagement-focused, and performance-oriented approach. After successfully completing Gallup's Boss to Coach learning journey, Nate became a Gallup certified manager. Nate lives with his wife, Charity, and 4 children in Gothenburg. He currently serves on the Flatwater Bank Board of Directors, Gothenburg Board of Education, where he is the president, Gothenburg Public Schools Foundation, where he is the chair, Redevelopment Authority, where he is the chair, Gothenburg United Funds Board, Gothenburg Improvement Company Board, where he's the president, and Our Lady of Good Counsel Parish Council, and any activity / opportunity to improve financial literacy. Next, we have Mike Bacon. Mike maintains a statewide practice in tax increment financing, TIF. He has represented community redevelopment authorities, economic development groups, and real estate developers, including local, regional, national, and multinational companies on more than 275 TIF projects across the state. Mike was the lead recruiter on 3 Fortune 500 company greenfield startups in Gothenburg. He also maintains his license as a title insurer and abstractor. He has been on the Gothenburg City Attorney for more than 35 years. And last but not least, we have Gary Greer, who is a Gothenburg City Administrator, is an organizational leader who has over 25 years of C-level experience in both the public and private sectors. He has a significant experience in economic development, community development, and organizational advancement in Texas, Kansas, Missouri, and Nebraska. His efforts have contributed to the creation of thousands of jobs and multi-million dollars of capital investment in communities. He has also managed a significant number of projects, including the construction of public buildings, parks, warehouses, law enforcement facilities, fire facilities, and convention centers. Gary has an undergraduate degree from Park University, a master's degree from Kansas University, and institute degrees from Georgetown University and the Darden School of Business and Virginia University. Now that introductions are done, I'll let them take it ahead.
Great. Well,
your presentations?
yeah, that'd be great if you don't want to pull that off. First of all, I want to thank Connor and Ian for being here with us in Gothenburg today. To learn a little bit more about what we're calling Project Meadowlark. We're really excited for this to become part of our community. And I think you guys' focus is on the green aspects of it. And we'll get into a little bit more of that. For anybody that's joining us remotely, please feel free to put any questions in the chat section and we can address those as those come up. We will try to answer those as you post those. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mike Bacon, who's been the lead recruiter on this project.
Well, thank you all. We hope this is an interesting piece and a great addition to the state of Nebraska. For 6 years, we've been recruiting a liquid fertilizer company, and it's going to be based in Gothenburg, producing a product that our farmers need, absorbed primarily within a 150-mile radius of Gothenburg, Nebraska. It comes from renewable energy produced and delivered by the Nebraska Public Power District. So that the local provider of electricity is the city of Gothenburg, which is administered and operated by Greer. Go to the next slide. It's won't make a lot of impression on people for the location, but just to the east of current city of Gothenburg is our industrial park. If you're familiar with the area, it's just east of the Frito-Lay corn gathering facility. It's going to be on a tract of land that is approximately 250 acres, and will be with rail service from the Union Pacific rail line, and there's a significant amount of UAN or liquid fertilizer that will be applied to the corn and other crops in the area by center pivot irrigation. Go to the next slide. So on a annual basis, we have 365,000 tons of liquid urea ammonium nitrate. Thiosulfate will be 146,000 tons. And we will also do about 20 million gallons of diesel exhaust fluid created in basically a carbon negative manner, which is pretty cool. Let's go to the next.
Mike, before you jump to that, something especially for this group, they might find interesting. If you're not closely tied to agriculture, ammonium thiosulfate may not be something that you're as familiar with, but can you talk about why that has become such an important fertilizer as it relates specifically to the environment?
So ammonium thiosulfate is used to allow the plant, as I understand it, to absorb nutrients to the benefit of the crop. We didn't used to have to require that addition to our agricultural products here because it was provided from a strange source, which is diesel trucks going up and down the highway, Interstate 80, and from the Union Pacific Railroad, provided by that off-put, and we add that to the crop. Since we've gone to low sulfur and control, especially with the addition of diesel exhaust fluid, it's no longer generated as an off-put. So they need to add back a little of that to make the crop grow better. So an interesting piece. Let's take a look at the next slide. So our project cost here is $750 million. It will take about 2 years to build. 50 full-time jobs plus transportation jobs. So our direct and indirect job creation here in the middle of Nebraska in a small town in the range of 300 jobs. What we're going to do to benefit the environment is we're going to reduce the cost of transportation and the output of add stuff for the environment. Currently, in order to get UAN here, it has to come by rail. One of two places in the Midwest, one small town in Oklahoma, in the eastern part of Iowa. To get here, it has to go through the rail yard in the city. It has to be going all the way into Gothenburg and then distributed by truck. So let's go to the next slide. And the next. This is the old way of building UAN. It required that we use natural gas or carbon-based feedstock and use the hydrogen from natural gas and use water and nitrogen from the air. So hydrogen is a big requirement. A lot of heat and generates through this chemical process the UAN and the other derivatives. We're using a different process in this case. Let's go to the next slide. Rather than using natural gas as a feedstock, what we can use is hydrogen from hydrolysis. If you remember your high school chemistry, it's water in the test tube, put into electrical probes, it emits a gas, flame over that, and it goes pop. That's the hydrogen that is generated through hydrolysis. So that gives us the hydrogen component that we were getting in the old way through natural gas. So in our case, we're going to have hydrolysis generate the hydrogen component. Then in order to complete the chemical process, we need to add in CO2, which is a gas that is harming the atmosphere currently. Sources of that, we can get it in large quantities from ethanol plants or perhaps from a coal-powered electric facility. So we need to use that, taking hydrogen from water and hydrogen and oxygen from the water, the CO2 to replace the input from natural gas, and we still haven't gotten to the carbon negative. That is, Mr. Greer is going to buy renewable energy from NPPD. So it's going to come from solar, it's going to come from wind, and from hydro, and then a big portion of what NPPD has right now is nuclear. So it's going to come from all renewable sources. It will be the second or third largest power user on the NPPD system. So you're going to get carbon-free generation of this product. Plus, it's really carbon negative because we're going to take CO2 that would otherwise be shipped to Wyoming and re-inject it into the ground. In this case, it's going to be minimized, so we don't have to do that. The output for this product from the waste stream is going to be oxygen, which is really cool. So we're also, here you can talk about utilizing the wastewater from the Gothenburg waste treatment plant, and there will be using groundwater to make it. All of which, if you think about the cycle, groundwater is going to be reapplied to the same ground that currently used for it from the to aquifer, so it's going to go back to the aquifer. It's a big cycle.
I think that's an important thing for people that maybe are on this or watching this video. When we think of fertilizer, when I think about fertilizer, I think about the granular stuff that I put on my yard. The fertilizer that's being produced here is significantly different than that. It's a liquid fertilizer that is applied through the pivots, as Mike said, or a big sprinkler system to the crops. And that's the water that's going to be used and then reapplied back to the crops. The the water is really the vector that carries the fertilizer. Another thing about the liquid-based fertilizer, it's extremely safe. So when you think about, I know I was concerned initially when I heard about a fertilizer plant, something that we could partner with for our community. I think about fertilizer plant that goes boom or that blows up. That's not this type of fertilizer plant. This is a water-based fertilizer that is in liquid form, that is not dry fertilizer that has maybe the more explosive components associated with it. But not to get ahead of Gary talking about the water that's going to be used in the production. Pretty neat story there, especially as it would pertain to the environment.
Start? Yeah. Well, thank you. I come from the perspective of the city government. And what we have to do is work out a lot of details to make this big project come to the community. And in the process, we've been working with this company and their engineers and architects. And what's really refreshing is that usually I have to remind them that they need to take care of the environment. And actually, they're pushing me a little bit hard to take care of the environment. They're very committed to making sure that this project is sustainable and it uses renewable energy and everything they can possibly do. As a matter of fact, currently we're going through a process called an optimization process. And they're looking at it, it's already been designed, and they're looking at every aspect of it to increase efficiency and effectiveness, including the environmental effects that it has on our area. So one of the most exciting things that we're working with them on is with our wastewater treatment plant, we treat about 360,000 gallons of sewage every day. And we go through all the requirements of the EPA in the state of Nebraska to make sure that that water is cleaned appropriately. We have a maximum capacity of about 831,000 gallons, so we've got room for growth there too. And the company came to us and said, how would you like for us to take all your wastewater? And I said, we love that. Currently, we have a process where after we clean the water appropriately, it goes into the White River. So the first thing I thought was, well, that's going to be really nice because that'll be less taken from the aquifer. It'll be about 20% of their need for water. And hopefully as we grow, it'll become more of a percentage, but it kind of closes the loop because we'll collect the water, we'll treat it, and then we're working on piping it over to their facility. They'll use it, and then they'll have wastewater, we'll have more waste. It'll just be a constant loop, and it'll be less use of one of our greatest assets around here is the aquifer. There's another thing about this is their energy. Which the city will be the supplier of their energy. And I was from Dallas before I came here, and I lived about 30 miles north of Waxahachie, Texas. And one day I felt the ground shake 30 miles away. It happened to be a fertilizer plant that blew up. I just visited here last month again to see how it's come about and they've rebuilt. But the agony, it just blew the town up. It was gone. So like Nate, when I first heard about this fertilizer plant, it kind of gave me pause, but as I've gotten into it, it's more and more an issue that I don't have anymore. So they're going to use 252 megawatts of power. If you want to know what that means, that's like twice the amount the entire city of Kearney uses for this one agency. So it's a lot of power. Every bit of that power has to be renewable energy. Requiring that we're buying from UPPD, their resources in that regard. They have to verify, we have to verify, and it has to be verified with the federal government that it's renewable. And the company is actually the one that's driving this because they picked the electrolysis process. This is a very innovative situation, which I think will be the model around the world as far as how fertilizer is made. So we're just happy and lucky to be involved in this, and really like the output of what this is going to do both for our city and our economy, but also for our environment.
One of the real intriguing things that is going on in the food production world is what inputs are going into the crop am I feeding my family? Frito-Lay, for example, is to know you put on that crop, kind of amounts, how much water you're using and so forth. So in this case, what we can tell people is the fertilizer is being applied to my crop. It's a negative carbon footprint. The other thing that I would like to point out, if I haven't already, is that this technology is about 100 years old. So this isn't a new thing. It's just something that in the past has not been cost effective to. So it's a clean process. It's going into your food chain, including your products. Not flammable. It's not explosive. It's not being created with heat and pressure. The product tanks are within line berms, and all of the staff is going to be trained at a national fire school. So safe to people, safe for the environment, safe for your food. So we're pretty excited about this as a new way to all our lives. Questions we'll be glad to try and answer.
One point you made was really good that I'd like to repeat is, this is almost like the combustion engine. This combustion engine's been around forever. It was used because it was the least costly way to have a car. And all of a sudden that's come first, well, now you have an electric vehicle standard. And I think that's kind of what these plants are like. They used to be like the combustion engine, and now we're gonna make it like.
Yeah, thanks so much. I do see that we have some questions. We have about 5 questions, but I think before we answer them, we're gonna do a quick 4-question survey. If you were not here at the beginning, just as a reminder, this survey helps us to continue to improve our events and bring you disease. So it's really appreciated. Didn't take too long, just 4 questions, and I would appreciate if you take it. And just for all of your knowledge, we did have about 15 people log in, so you're not just talking to an empty room. A virtual soul room is who you're talking to. All right, while I have that survey up, I will go ahead and look at the Q&A. So first one, question is, are these jobs sourced locally? Which I think you pretty much answered, but if anyone would like to reiterate.
Where jobs local,
Mhm.
we're going to do, hopefully, all of the jobs are going to be local. There are going to be some high-level jobs that require specific training, education. Those will probably be imported. By and large, I'm going to say 80 to 90% of the jobs are going to be local. Yes.
That's awesome. Thank you.
We're also trying to use, there's another things that we're creating to put people back from UNL to Gothenburg. So those.
And we really do feel like the economic impact is going to be within this region of the state. When we think about the capacity of fertilizer that's going to be produced, it's going to cover probably 150-mile radius, and the economic impact of those jobs and those support jobs is probably going to be somewhat similar to that. I mean, not quite that far. It should be positive for the entire area.
That's great to hear. Cool.
Yeah.
All right, next question we have on here is, will new renewables be added to the NPPD system to create generation for this project?
I should answer that. NPPD is in the process right now of doing an analysis of what they're gonna need in the next 10, 15, 20 years. And I think absolutely they are going to be adding those renewables in fashion. I know the board of directors is highly motivated to do that. And in talking to the CEO last week, he kind of told me how they're going about determining what they're gonna expand with and how that's gonna affect the environment and how it's gonna affect cities. It appears to me that there's going to be significant increases in renewable.
Who else want to add to that? Okay. All right, next question is liquid fertilizer used elsewhere in Nebraska?
Liquid fertilizer is becoming really popular. First of all, it can be applied to the crop with a reduction in manpower and man hours. So it can be applied through a center pivot irrigation. If you don't have center pivot irrigation, it becomes trips across the ground with a tractor fueled by diesel power. So this is the preferred way to reduce cost of production. So it's used about any place you see center pivots.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we have two different sections. We've got a chat section and a Q&A, and people are chatting some more questions. So more are coming. Okay. Next question. You plan to use renewable energy for your project, but recently Dawson County implemented draconian setback requirements for wind energy. Will that affect your plans?
I don't work for the county. So I don't know.
Next one is what kind of ancillary businesses might be needed in the community to help serve this operation?
A lot of trucking. First one that comes to mind, this is going to be highly technical. So we think support services will be a lot of piping and plumbing. So those types of
Fabrication shops, a lot of transportation, hopefully restaurants, hopefully hotel rooms, and those kind of things that actually are dual benefit for the community.
Where will temp workers be housed? Yes.
So yeah, we will have an average of about maybe 1,400 people here, only 3,500. So what we've done is partnered with the company, and actually the city has gone in on property, and we will have basically people who run the country and build these things, and we'll have a camper area where we're putting in sewer, water, and other services like garbage collection, and so they can have kind of that'll be the main place, but probably every campsite and every hotel room in the area will be used. And then we also do have some housing that's really tight everywhere in the county, but we're trying to be proactive on that, and we're hoping, that we're gonna have 144 campsites with double that if need be. So we're hoping that not everybody shows up at the same time. That'll put pressure on the city. We're trying to get ahead of that. All facilities ready for them. There's several campsites in the area that are also expanding. Knowing this is coming on, we've got some other things over in North Platte that are being built that they're expanding, which is only 30 miles away. So I think that's where they're going to live is probably in temporary camping facilities.
Another question. You mentioned diesel exhaust fluid is carbon negative. What does that mean, and can you expand on
Pete, please.
that? Diesel exhaust fluid you mentioned is carbon negative. Can you expand on what that means?
Sure. So it's the current Currently, ethanol plants give off CO2. They are gas fired to produce their product. So they have to get rid of, they capture the CO2 right now and try and incent it financially to get rid of the CO2. The only popular way and cost-effective way to get rid of the CO2 is to capture it and insert it into something that makes it go away. So we're going to produce it in a carbon neutral base, but we're going to capture that CO2 and rather than inject it, chemically alter it, and the output from that chemical alteration is going to be oxygen. So oxygen will be released into the atmosphere as opposed to the way that it's normally done with natural gas, which output is CO2. So we consider that a negative. We're actually using up thing that's going to be released as a carbon base.
So it's not all DEF, it's just the DEF from this
Yeah.
project.
No, it's not diesel. DEF is diesel exhaust fluid, which controls that stuff that's coming out of diesel source. Going to create DEF. Other diesel trucks used in their fuel system to control the output. That stuff coming out of their exhaust. But this process, we use CO2 that's currently being generated from the facility, and so we'll be that we turn into oxygen and fertilizer.
Cool. All right, I am not seeing any other questions come through. So I guess if you have any closing statements you'd like to make, do it.
No, just really appreciate everybody's interest in this project. We are certainly very excited about it, not only for what it will do for the environment, but what it'll do for the state of Nebraska, Gothenburg, and this entire area. We feel it's a great example of how industry and environment can work together, and excited to see all the good things that come from finding an alternate path that we really believe is better. Stay tuned.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you all for being here and taking the time to talk more about this.
Yeah, as we wrap up, just want to remind everybody that if you haven't finished the poll, we really appreciate that, because again, it helps us improve our events moving forward and also allows us to continue running events. Yeah, we really appreciate everybody logging on and coming out. And yeah, I guess we'll wrap up there. Thank you.
Thanks, Connor and Ian.
Did see there's one more question about where we will get it posted to our YouTube channel in about 2 to 3 weeks. Stay tuned. Thank you all for coming online. Have a great night.